My parents threw me out and humiliated me in front of the neighbors. "Get your shit and get out," my father yelled. They thought I was a failure with nothing to my name. They forgot one thing. 4 years earlier, I'd saved their house. 3 days later, I pressed play on a recording they never knew existed. 90 days after that, their house was gone. I watched from across the street as my father hurled my belongings onto the front lawn. My laptop case bounced off the driveway. My clothes scattered like confetti across the grass I'd mowed every summer for 15 years. "Get your shit and get out!" Arnold's voice carried through the neighborhood. Mrs. Patterson peeked through her blinds. The Kowalskis slowed their evening walk. My mother appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "You made your choice, Brian. Live with it." 4 years of warehouse shifts. 4 years of saving every dollar I could spare. 40,000 in the bank, and they still saw me as their failure. The disappointment who chose blue collar over college, who refused their vision of success. Glenn emerged from behind them, shaking his head. "This is what happens when you disrespect family." I pulled out my phone, started recording. Every box, every scattered book, every piece of my life thrown away like garbage. The mortgage contract I'd signed 4 years ago sat in my filing cabinet at home. They'd forgotten about it, but I hadn't. "You want me gone?" I called across the street. "Fine, but remember this moment." Arnold laughed. "What are you going to do, sue us?" I stopped recording, pocketed the phone. "Something like that." The look on his face shifted slightly. "Good. Let him wonder." I loaded my car methodically, ignoring their stares. The contract would speak louder than any argument. They'd thrown away their son. Now I'd show them what that actually cost. 3 days later, I sat in my studio apartment sorting through the debris of my former life. The laptop had survived the fall. Most of my clothes needed washing. But the real treasure waited in my email. Ela had sent it Tuesday morning with a simple subject line. "You should hear this." I clicked play. Glenn's voice came through clearly. "Brian's always been a loser. Warehouse work? Seriously? Dad should have cut him off years ago." My mother's laugh followed. "He thinks he's so smart with his little savings account. $40,000. Like that's some kind of achievement." "The house would be worth more without him dragging us down," Arnold added. "Image matters in my business. Having a son who loads trucks doesn't help." The recording continued for 12 minutes. Every cruel observation, every dismissive comment, every way they'd planned to push me out. Ila had been visiting Glenn when they'd started talking. She'd recorded it all. I played it again, then again. The mortgage contract sat on my desk where I'd placed it that morning. Standard family loan agreement, properly notarized. $35,000 advance to prevent foreclosure. Interest rate, 8% annually. Payment terms, negotiable between parties. They'd begged me to help save their house. Now they'd thrown me out of it. I opened my laptop and began calculating. Principal plus 4 years of compound interest. Late fees for missed payments. Legal costs for collection. The total made me smile. Morrison and Associates occupied the 3rd floor of a downtown office building. I'd chosen them carefully. Small firm, hungry for business, with a reputation for aggressive collection work. "This is quite thorough," Attorney Morrison said, reviewing the paperwork I'd brought. "You have the original promissory note, notarized signatures, bank transfer records, and documented attempts to discuss repayment." I nodded. "They've made no payments in 4 years, no acknowledgement of the debt. The current amount owed, with interest and fees, comes to $62,000. He leaned back in his chair. "That's more than enough to force a sale of the property." "How long?" 30 days for them to respond to formal demand. If they can't pay, we file for judgment and lien. The house sells at auction within 90 days. I signed the retainer agreement. "Do it." Morrison smiled. "Your family will receive the demand letter tomorrow morning." I walked back to my car, pulled out my phone, and scrolled through my contacts. Glenn had texted twice since Monday. Arnold had called once. My mother had sent a single message. When you're ready to apologize, we'll talk. None of them understood yet. They thought this was about hurt feelings, about pride. They'd raised me to believe family came first, that blood mattered more than money. But they'd also taught me to read contracts carefully, to honor my obligations, to collect what was owed. The phone rang. Glenn. Brian, we need to talk. Dad's willing to let you come back if you apologize. Too late for that. What do you mean, too late? I ended the call. Romano's restaurant had been our family meeting place for major announcements. Graduations, promotions, holiday celebrations. Tonight felt different. The legal papers had arrived that morning. I slid into the booth across from them. Arnold's face was red. Georgina clutched her purse like a shield. Glenn sat beside Illa, who wouldn't meet my eyes. $62,000? Arnold slammed the papers on the table. Are you out of your mind? It's what you owe me. I kept my voice level, plus interest and fees. We're family, Georgina hissed. You can't do this to us. You threw my belongings on the lawn. You told the neighborhood I was garbage. Which part of that was family? Glenn leaned forward. We can work something out. Monthly payments, maybe. The contract specifies full payment on demand. You had 4 years to discuss terms. Illa finally spoke. They know about the recording, Brian. Arnold's face went pale. You recorded us? Illa recorded you. I just listened. I pulled out my phone, placed it on the table. Would you like to hear it again? The part where you discuss how much the house would be worth without me dragging you down? The silence stretched. A waiter approached, saw our expressions, and retreated. You planned this, Glenn said. The whole thing. I planned nothing. You chose to take my money when you needed it. You chose to throw me out when you didn't. I'm just collecting what's owed. Georgina started crying. We'll lose everything. You should have thought of that before. Arnold's hand shook as he reached for his water glass. There has to be another way. I stood up. 90 days. That's what the law gives you. I placed a 20 on the table. Dinner's on me. Morrison's conference room felt larger with 5 people in it. Arnold and Georgina sat across from me, their lawyer between them looking defeated. Glenn had stayed home. Illa had come anyway. My clients are prepared to offer $30,000, their attorney said. Full settlement, no admission of wrongdoing. Morrison didn't even look up from his notes. The judgment is already filed. $62,000 plus court costs. The house sells in 30 days unless paid in full. Arnold leaned forward. Brian, please, we can't come up with that kind of money. You have equity in the house. Sell it. It's our home, Georgina whispered. It was my home too, until you threw me out of it. Their lawyer shuffled papers. Perhaps we could arrange a payment plan. No. I'd practiced this moment. The contract is clear. Payment in full. Illa spoke from the corner. Play the recording. I looked at her, surprised. Play it, she repeated. Let everyone hear what they really think of family. Morrison raised an eyebrow. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the conference room speakers. Glenn's voice filled the room, followed by my parents' laughter, their casual cruelty. When it ended, silence. Jesus Christ, their lawyer muttered. Arnold stared at the table. Georgina had stopped crying. The house lists Monday, Morrison announced. Auction follows in 30 days. Mr. Kellerman will receive proceeds up to the judgment amount. Any excess returns to the defendants. I stood. We're done here. Outside, Illa caught up with me. You got what you wanted. Did I? The money, the revenge, all of it. I looked back at the building. They taught me to honor contracts, to collect what's owed, to stand up for myself. I shrugged. I'm just being the son they raised. The auction lasted 11 minutes. 3 bidders drove the price to $87,000. After legal fees and costs, I received $62,000. The remaining $22,000 went to my parents. I signed the papers in Morrison's office while Arnold and Georgina waited in the parking lot. Through the window, I watched them load boxes into a rental truck. They'd found an apartment across town. Glenn was helping them move. Satisfaction of judgment, Morrison said, sliding the final document across his desk. Congratulations, Mr. Kellerman. You've successfully collected your debt. I nodded, pocketed the check. $40,000 in savings, plus $62,000 collected, minus legal fees. I had enough to buy my own house now. Cash down, no mortgage needed. My phone buzzed. A text from Ela. Glenn wants to know if you're happy now. I typed back. Ask him if he thinks I should be. She responded immediately. He says you proved your point. Time to move on. What do you think? I think you got exactly what you asked for. Whether that's what you wanted is something else. I walked to my car, drove past the house that used to be home. The new owners had already started painting the trim. The lawn looked the same. Mrs. Patterson was still watching from her window. My studio apartment felt smaller when I returned. The check sat on my desk next to the mortgage contract, now marked paid in full. 4 years of compound interest. 4 years of building resentment. 4 years of planning this exact moment. I'd won. The contract was satisfied. The debt was paid. My family had learned the cost of throwing me away. So why did victory feel like sitting alone in an empty room, counting money from people who would never speak to me again? I folded the check, placed it in my wallet. Tomorrow I'd start looking at houses. Something with a lawn I could mow myself, in a neighborhood where no one knew my name or my story. The recording was still on my phone. I could delete it now. The evidence had served its purpose, but I kept it anyway. One more reminder of the price of family loyalty when it only flows one way. Outside, evening settled over the city. Somewhere across town, Arnold and Georgina were unpacking boxes in their new apartment, learning what it felt like to start over. Glenn was probably helping them, being the good son they'd always wanted. I was exactly where I'd chosen to be, alone, vindicated, and free. The silence in my apartment felt different now, not the hollow emptiness I'd grown accustomed to, but something cleaner. I walked to the kitchen and made myself a cup of coffee, real coffee, not the instant stuff I'd been surviving on. As I waited for it to brew, I caught my reflection in the window. For the first time in months, I didn't look away. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Saw the news. Good for you. M. Marcus. He'd kept his word about staying out of it, but apparently he'd been watching from the sidelines. I almost smiled. Almost. The coffee was bitter. Perfect. I took it to my desk where the laptop still sat open, cursor blinking on a blank document. For weeks I'd stared at that empty page, unable to write anything that mattered. Tonight felt different. I started typing. Chapter 1. The thing about families is that they teach you love comes with conditions, even when they pretend otherwise. The words flowed easier than they had in years. Not the corporate drivel I'd been churning out, not the careful prose I'd crafted for other people's stories. This was mine. Raw, honest, unfiltered. The story of a daughter who'd spent 32 years trying to earn love that was never actually on offer. Hours passed. The coffee grew cold, then disappeared entirely. I wrote about the dinner parties where I was decoration, about achievements that were minimized, about the slow erosion of self-worth disguised as family tradition. I wrote about Glenn's golden boy status and my parents' casual cruelty wrapped in concern. I wrote about the moment I'd finally understood that their approval wasn't something I could earn. It was something they'd decided I didn't deserve. When I finally looked up, dawn was creeping through the windows. My back ached and my eyes burned, but I felt more alive than I had in months. The document showed 47 pages. 47 pages of truth I'd never had the courage to speak aloud. My phone rang. Mom's picture flashed on the screen, the formal portrait from their last anniversary party where she wore pearls and practiced disappointment. I watched it ring. 4 times. 5. Then silence. She didn't leave a voicemail. She never did when she was angry. The silent treatment was part of the arsenal, designed to make me come crawling back with apologies for crimes I hadn't committed. Not this time. I saved the document and closed the laptop. Outside, the city was waking up. Early commuters, dog walkers, the endless rhythm of people moving forward. I was part of that now, not suspended in the amber of other people's expectations. The apartment felt bigger somehow, like I'd reclaimed space I didn't know I'd lost. I made fresh coffee and toast with real butter, luxuries that felt earned rather than stolen. As I ate, I planned my day, grocery shopping for food I actually wanted, a walk in the park without checking my phone, maybe dinner at that Italian place I'd always wanted to try. Simple things, my things, the beginning of a life lived on my own terms.